The Oracle's Curse, written by Sylvia Harper. Chapter 1, The Girl Who Cannot Love. Rain tapped against the glass like impatient fingers, blurring the neon sign outside her window. Madame Selene, Tarot, Palm, Fate. The letters flickered in sickly red and violet, a cheap glamour in the darkness, a lure for the curious and the desperate. In this part of the city, there was never a shortage of either. For $10, Selene could tell them they'd find love, money, or forgiveness. For 20, she might even smile while doing it. She sat alone in the cramped parlor, the storm muttering overhead, her shawl drawn loosely across her shoulders. In her hands, the tarot cards shifted with a whispering weight, the edges worn soft by years of use. She shuffled them, not because she needed to, but because people expected theatrics. People wanted the illusion, the performance. Smoke curled lazily from a stick of sandalwood incense, its scent thick and sweet, clinging to the velvet curtains and the folds of her shawl. Behind her, shelves sagged under the weight of crystals, jars of herbs, and books bound in cracked leather. Half of it was decoration, props to make her look mystical. The other half was there because sometimes, late at night, she needed proof that her world was real. That she wasn't just losing her mind. Selene lifted the top card. The Lovers. The image mocked her. Two figures holding hands beneath an angel's blessing, forever joined in radiant harmony. To most, it symbolized passion, union, fated connection. To her, it was a curse drawn in ink, a cruel reminder of what she could never have. She slid the card back into the deck and shoved it aside. Love was a door she had locked long ago. And she had thrown away the key. At 24, Selene should have been out in the world living. Dating, working, dancing until dawn, tasting the freedom everyone else craved. Instead, she lingered on the edges of life, drifting in shadows, hiding behind veils of incense and fortune-teller scarves. People thought her mysterious, a woman wrapped in secrets who drew men and women alike with her strange, quiet allure. The truth? She was terrified. The first time it had happened, she'd convinced herself it was coincidence. She was 15 then, still soft around the edges, a girl who wanted to believe in stories where the dangerous boy could save you. Daniel was older, reckless in the way boys on motorcycles always seemed to be, hair falling into his eyes like he didn't care whether the world looked back. Selene had allowed herself one, single, traitorous thought. What would it feel like if he held her hand? That was enough. The vision struck like lightning, slicing across her mind with brutal clarity. Daniel, pale and still, his body twisted beneath the wreckage of his bike, blood staining the gravel like spilled paint. His eyes, once alive with a daredevil fire, empty now. Gone. It shook her to the marrow, but she buried it deep. Pretended it meant nothing. Coincidence. Teenagers imagine terrible things, don't they? She told herself she'd simply let her imagination run wild. Until Claire. Claire, her best friend, her twin flame in laughter, the girl who laughed so loud teachers shushed her daily, who always smelled faintly of citrus shampoo, who dared Selene to sneak out and climb rooftops just to count the stars. Claire, who one drunken evening confessed she had a crush, cheeks flushed with wine and courage. And in the tiny, traitorous beat where Selene's heart fluttered, just enough to imagine what if the vision came. Claire in a hospital bed. Tubes down her throat. Her body motionless, her skin pale as wax. 3 months later, the car accident left Claire brain dead. Her parents turned off the machines. Selene's screams, silent in her own throat, never stopped echoing in her skull. And then another boy. Another girl. Every time her chest warmed, every time she dared to imagine what it would be like to love and be loved, the visions returned. Always death. Always inevitable. She learned the lesson young. Her heart was poison. And poison kills. So she built walls. High, thick, cold walls. She taught herself to smile without warmth, to speak without intimacy, to touch without lingering. Every gesture rehearsed, every glance measured. She became careful with her laughter, cautious with her words, disciplined with her breath, as though even a stray thought could unleash the curse that pulsed in her veins. And when the visions persisted, she gave them shape: incense, velvet, candles, the trappings of mysticism. If she was doomed to see death when she cared, she would make it a performance, a costume. Better for strangers to believe she was some enigmatic seer than to know the truth. She was a coward hiding from her own heart. Her life became a stage, her body a vessel for ritual, her days an endless repetition of masks. A woman who could see the future but refused to live in it. A woman who could not risk wanting, because wanting meant loss. And beneath all the silk scarves and smoky shadows, Selene carried the quiet, suffocating certainty that she would die unloved. Not because no one could love her, she'd seen too many eyes linger on her face not to know otherwise, but because she could never allow herself to love in return. Because love meant death. The door creaked open, dragging her back to the present. A woman in her 50s shuffled inside, wrapped in a plastic raincoat that clung to her like cellophane. Her hair was damp, her eyes darting nervously around the shop before settling on Selene. You do readings?" the woman asked, voice thin and uncertain. Selene softened her expression into something between mysterious and reassuring. "That's what the sign says." She gestured toward the small round table draped in deep purple cloth. The woman sat, wringing her hands like they might wring themselves into bone. Selene lit another stick of incense, more for show than anything. "Cards or palm?" she asked. "Cards, I guess." Selene spread the tarot deck in a fan. She didn't need them, her real gift worked whether she touched cardboard or not, but people wanted to see something. They wanted symbols, not truths. The woman selected 3 cards. Selene flipped them one by one. The Tower. Death. 10 of Swords. The woman gasped, hand flying to her mouth. "That's bad, isn't it?" Selene forced a soft chuckle. "Not always. Death doesn't mean death. It means change, transformation. The Tower means upheaval, yes, but sometimes we need chaos to rebuild. And the 10 of Swords," she tapped the card, showing a man pierced through by blades, "means the worst is over. Things can only go up from here." The woman exhaled, visibly relieved. Selene smiled faintly, but her chest tightened. Because even without meaning to, she felt it, the sharp tug at her ribs, the shimmer at the edge of her vision. And then it came. A flash. The woman stepping into a crosswalk, headlights bearing down. A scream swallowed by impact. A body crumpled on wet asphalt, rain washing crimson across the street. Selene gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. She blinked hard, forcing the vision to dissolve. "Are you okay?" the woman asked. "Yes," Selene lied, voice catching. "Just incense smoke." She rushed through the rest of the reading, feeding the woman hopeful lies she would cling to as she walked out into the night. Selene wanted to shout, "Don't leave. Don't cross the street." But she knew it wouldn't matter. It never mattered. The future always came, no matter how loudly she tried to warn people. By the time the woman left, clutching her raincoat, Selene sank into her chair and pressed her palms against her eyes. She hated herself. Hated this curse. Hated the way death clung to her like perfume. The hours crawled. Clients came and went, a teenager desperate to know if her crush liked her back, a businessman asking about promotions, a tired mother who wanted reassurance that her son's illness would pass. Selene told them what they wanted to hear. Smiles, reassurances, careful lies. That was her job. Keep the mask on, keep the walls high. Because if she let even a crack show, if she let herself feel, the visions would devour her. She had tried once, years ago, to tell someone the truth. Marcus. He wasn't like the others. Kind, patient, curious. He had come in for a reading, then returned again, not for answers but for her company. He brought coffee, left notes, lingered with a steadiness that chipped at her walls. One day, She told him everything. The curse. The visions. The deaths. He laughed. Not cruelly, but with disbelief. "You're just scared," he said. "You're pushing people away because it's easier than being vulnerable." 2 weeks later, he was dead. A fall from a rooftop during a party. She never spoke of it again. By closing time, the shop smelled of smoke and wax. Selene blew out the last candle, rubbing her temples. Loneliness pressed heavy against her chest, but she welcomed it. Loneliness was safe. Loneliness meant no one else died. She turned the lock on the door. And that was when it happened. The bell chimed, soft but sharp against the hush of the storm. A man stepped inside. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Rain dripping from his dark hair onto the floorboards. His presence filled the room in a way that made the air feel heavier, charged, like the seconds before lightning strikes. Selene stiffened. "I'm closed." The man's lips curved in a slow, deliberate smile. "I just need one reading." Something in his voice prickled her skin. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't hopeful. It was calm. Certain. Against her better judgment, Selene gestured toward the table. The man sat, folding his hands on the cloth. His eyes, storm gray, unsettling, never left hers. Selene's heart stuttered. She braced herself for it, for the rush of cold, the tearing vision of his death. A car crash, a stabbing, an illness, something. But nothing came. No flash. No scream. No crimson. Only silence. Her stomach dropped. She tried again. Brushing his sleeve as if by accident, meeting his gaze longer than she dared. Still nothing. No fate. No death. Her entire body went cold. For the first time in her life, Selene saw a man she couldn't see at all. And that terrified her more than any death ever had.